Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. I'm Steve.
I'm Roger Latewood. How y'all doing?
I'm Marty.
I'm Fish Ganja Guy.
I'm Hog.
I'm Dorian.
Tommy J out here.
Hello, everybody.
And this is the Growing with Fishes podcast. We do this podcast every week. We cover cannabis topics, aquaponic topics, gardening topics, all different kinds of stuff. This week we had a guest have some technical issues, and then end up we just weren't able to get him on, so we're gonna try and get him on in a different week. We're originally going to have Alan on from Grow Kashi, but he had some technical problems. So we're going to get him on in a different week, so that'll be cool. Also have a little cool show announcement, and if you guys haven't seen in the Facebook group, we got Ed Rosenthal is going to be on one of our episodes in September. So that's going to be really awesome. Yeah. So pretty stoked on that. So what's everybody been up to? I guess we'll start off with Roger. What have you been up to?
Well, just trying to I'm getting ready to. In fact, I'd like to talk a little bit about this for the newbie aquaponics guys. I've made the decision to go ahead and start a small vegetable aquaponics system, and we talked about it a little bit today on Skype. So that's about all. That same old stuff, trying to get the network up and going, and working at I Love Growing Marijuana, and helping to teach people, and just bringing better genetics to people all over the world.
Cool.
Awesome.
You guys over there got a bunch of episodes. I think Hogmaster was saying you guys got a bunch of episodes uploaded of the podcast, right? You guys said you got them ordered from start to finish, so you can go through them from beginning to end, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're trying. Now they might get out of order if people post. I think that'll bring something to the top. But Hogmaster was kind enough. I said we need to load all the podcasts in the podcast section, and we actually tried to do the YouTube embedding. So any of you fans of the show that haven't already joined ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, go over there, join the forum. Of course, you can just go to YouTube. It's not rocket science or anything. But we've included the forum to try to raise the consciousness of the new aquaponic movement, as I would call it, where it's now starting to show that the fruits and the labors of actually doing it right, which is something that most people don't understand. Aquaponics is not what you think it is. It's a much more controlled situation, and now the science is getting there to where me too, said that I'm not doing aquaponics, it's not worth it. I'm now convinced that I'm going to try it, and I'm in a state where I can only do it with my vegetables, but still, I don't mind eating some fish here and there, and I've got access to all kinds of fish. And so thankful to this show, we went ahead and put that on the website, and thanks, Marty, for bringing that up. And thanks, Hogmaster, for diligently doing that over a couple-day period and loading all the episodes onto the forum. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
Thought you might get a smile. We'd get a smile or something out of you for that one. So you'd like that.
Oh yeah, thanks a ton. That's awesome.
Spreading the word, man. Well, I want to build a really killer webcast section, and why not start with one of the best podcasts on the internet for any kind of cannabis, much less learning about aquaponics from the top level, so I love it. I learned something. I love it when the guy that runs the show, the guys that own the show, started the show, learned something from our guests, and they all admit it. Like, we learned stuff on this show. It's cool.
Yeah, I think that, I think that's why a lot of people show up consistently, or why people enjoy coming back. And we've had like the Spectrum King guys on multiple times, and we've had Dorian and Old Guy, and on a couple of different times. And so it's just been it's been cool to kind of have some reoccurring people for sure. And it started out with just me and Steve, so the rest of us have sort of just joined in along the way. So it's been it's been kind of cool to have it go on as long as it has, and still be interesting, I guess. Sometimes it's difficult, to have such a narrow content window. And I guess we sort of started mostly with just like aquaponic cannabis, and now it's more like aquaponics or cannabis, like either one of those two we end up covering quite a bit. So yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun. Still is a lot of fun for me.
Panel's great. The panel's just great. That's what I love about it. Now that we've got several people been coming back. Like, well, it was let's thank Steve Steve sends email, invites you back if you came on as a guest. I started off as just a guest, because of the same like tonight situation. Oh, well, no, it's because Aquaponic Dummy and I worked together, and we were sitting there on 420, and Dummy goes, "Oh, Steve just messaged me the link," and I said, "Wow." Okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll sit here by myself, or maybe you can talk him into sending me a link, And he sent me a link, and we had a blast. And I think that's when Brain Grow, that was his first show too, and he's missing right now. But he himself stayed on the show for weeks. But I thank Steve for inviting us back. Just like Hogmaster, he was a good guest. He's a member of our forum, a moderator, and he was a medical guest at first, kind of talking about weaning off of pharmaceuticals using cannabis and CBD oil and extracts and stuff, and it's gone from there. And it's just nice to have a wide range of voices to be part of. And the guest, what other podcast on the planet gets Ed Rosenthal or Spectrum King or Mammoth P or any of them people to come on the show? The owners and the guys that start these companies, these great companies, nobody else gets these guys on the show. So I'm just honored beyond belief to be part of the panel and be invited every week. It's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, look, somebody's nodding over there, Tommy J.
We're gonna have to make y'all fight it out for some of these guest episodes. We only got 10 slots.
We'll figure it out.
Hunger Games. Everybody has to get stoned and then see what they're hungry for, right?
Yeah, everyone's got to start smoking continuous dabs starting at 3 p.m. And those that are still awake get to do the show.
Yeah, it would be real impressive to the guest at that point too. Huh? What'd you say? I forgot.
I'm just kidding.
It's a stoner show, as I've been told many times.
I just thought it was funny. What have you been up to, Marty? Aside from our failed attempt to come see you, thanks to the eclipse again and traffic.
Oh, like I said, I told both you guys already that I was pretty sure that was going to be the case. Everybody, I mean, I had so many pictures from friends like on my Facebook feed, and just how like completely clogged Central Oregon was before you guys even went up there. So knowing that everybody was going to leave on that day. So whether you came a week early or a day early or whatever, everybody was leaving pretty much at the same time. And it was, I-5 was just crazy pretty much all night long. It was pretty gnarly. I don't live that far from I-5, and so we made sure that we just didn't need to go anywhere for sure. Took a back road. But even a lot of the back roads were really clogged up because people that knew that you could take like a north exit and take a road around thought they'd be able to get back on. But I-5 was so clogged up for so far that it just clogged up a lot of the side routes too. So it was an adventure for sure. But I understand why people wanted to be able to witness it for sure.
Yeah, that was fucking incredible.
Yeah, we were in the path. I was in the path also for the full deal. And I think anywhere that you were in a state that thing touched, it was crazy on the highways.
Yeah.
We had the beginning of the eclipse, and then the clouds rolled in, and 8 minutes before totality, and we never saw the sun again the rest of the afternoon.
No.
So it kind of really sucked for the millions of people that came to Carolina, to the beach and everywhere. Well, a lot of people did see it. Yeah, just because I had clouds didn't mean I had clouds at the beach. In fact, I think they showed a real good video about the beach, and they did have a killer thing out there. But yeah, I went outside, and it was freaking. I didn't even, it was bad. It was such a bummer, so just clouds. So. Lucky anyway. Did you get to see Marty? Did you even get to see it, or did you have to travel to get to see it, or were you just trying to be with friends? I mean,
we had 93% here, and I got to, I checked it out. I wasn't like overly concerned with it, but mostly
Right.
I was at work, so it's not like, there's a lot you can do about it. Oh yeah, look, there it is. Watched it for a little while. Everybody was kind of like, oh, cool. And then went back in and started working again. So for me, it's like a couple minute experience. There's no long journey or anything involved.
right. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. But I can understand why a lot of people wanted to. And I knew that you guys probably, even if you did make it here, it might not have been until the next day if you tried to keep them coming down I-5. It was gnarly.
Take your tent with you.
So other than that, let's see. Well, we did the class, which was kind of fun, and so doing a lot of training with the couple of plants I have going in my failed side by side. Those are gonna start flowering soon, and it's pretty thick in there, just because I probably should have put them in the flower like 2 weeks ago, but I didn't. So it's pretty bushy, and yeah, doing lots of training, feeding those couple plants. Released a bunch of lace wings, which I always do before I go into flower. So let's see, I think I have one more day left to be down to full 12 by 12. I count down an hour each day from 18.6. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll have to go out and check when I reprogram it tonight. But I think I have one more day left. I'll be on full 12 by 12, and then I'll still get that big veg push when they go into flower. So I still have a lot of training to do. I may even have to trim some out because I don't have a lot of head space. So we'll see how that goes.
We've got bush.
Yeah, it's definitely bushy. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got going on, other than like outdoor vegetable gardens and stuff like that. I got tons of tomatoes that have set. They're just going nuts on the salad bar on the front porch. I've sprouted a bunch of chard, transplanted some sage because it was getting too big. I got, I think 4 or 5 watermelons now, something like that, growing in that back aquaponic system. Harvested a bunch of elderberries.
Do you want to show them your?
System.
Do you want to show them your porch garden, or?
Yeah, I'll have to grab my phone, and then we can go check it out.
Weird.
Cool.
Oh, that was really cool over the weekend. Got a chance to see it, at least on video, even though we couldn't make it because of traffic.
Yeah, let me hook up through my phone, and if we can do that. So I'll be right back.
Word.
Very
What's
cool.
new with you, Fish Conjure guy?
Not too much, man. Just day 47 of flower, I think it is. So everybody's looking healthy and happy, and give probably one more feeding before I do 2 rounds of winter frost from New Millennium Nutrients to as my pre-flush, and then like 2 weeks of flush and choppy. And that's about it. Other than that, everything's going good.
Hey, for those of the people that want to debate about flushing, why with such an organic method of growing, why would you flush with aquaponics? Because I know a lot of people that really don't believe in flushing, so I'm just curious.
Well, with dual root zone, you still have that soil layer that you're going to be
Oh,
flushing.
okay, that's a good point. All right.
And even though I use mostly organic nutrients, there's still some synthetics, as well as some that might have a little bit of a saltiness to them. So I do need to kind of not oversaturate the soil, but still add enough water in that over the course of like 2 to 3 weeks, all of it's going to be used up, and the plant's just going to be void of all nutrient material. It's just going to be the plant that's going to be left as the medicine. So
You're
I'm
basically
still doing like a
gently
2-week flush.
leaching them.
What's
So
up,
are
Rod?
so you're just gently leaching it out then slowly?
Yeah,
Instead
so
of
over like 2 weeks
total
or 3 weeks, what I'll do is I'll just use water and molasses in the soil every couple days. That's it.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you. I just want to clarify that for everybody. And your
You're
personal.
welcome.
Hey, Roger.
What's up?
Remember that challenge you said about DJ Shorts and Dutch Passions?
Boy,
Uh,
he came right up with the Slammy, didn't
I researched it, and the DJ Shorts came out with it, and it gave Suki Dutch Passions the only one that could sell DJ Shorts original
Okay.
blueberry.
Well, so we've got probably that same strain.
Yeah, it is.
Located.
Dutch Passions the only one that could sell it. DJ Shorts came out with it, and they're the only ones that could legally sell his seed.
Right.
And I found it in one of Ed Roosevelt's books too.
Oh, really? It was in one of Ed's books?
Yep. I found it in one of his books and one of the Big Butts books. I don't know if you ever had it. Talks about different strains and stuff about it.
Yeah.
I found it there.
That's cool. Well, see, what I know about Amsterdam, though, is that all the seed companies and all the gurus, the genetic gurus, they all kind of share. So
Yeah.
there wouldn't be any reason for, like if let's say that Robert knows these guys and they're in a co-op of seed genetic, breeders and all, that's how we've ended up with that. Whatever may or may not have been legal. I mean, is that still standing? The legal, that contract type thing? Because if you had read it in a Rosenthal book, how old is that book? I mean, I agree that it's true if you read it there, but as far as
I found it a Big Butts book too. I think that one came out in 2015 or 2016. That book came out.
yeah, but is that going back from information that was published, say in 2005?
Yeah, that could be right too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but either way, I'm not disputing. Well, thank you, man. Thanks, Al.
Awesome.
Cool.
So we're looking at Marty's grow here.
Oh, it looks nice.
Oh, we're going to
Oh,
Marty.
yeah, this is the bushy one. Well, I guess they're both pretty bushy. This one's it grows a little thinner. This is shishkaberry over here, so it really takes to the scrog nice, spreads out really well. And this one over here is not, it doesn't take it quite as well. You can see it's really, I guess I don't know how well you guys can see, but it's really fighting it and wants to stand back up, and it's just getting really bushy. And you can see I don't have a ton of headroom up here, so we'll see how that works out. I can stretch it out a little farther, and but they're about done there. So it's definitely time. Like I said, it was probably time about 2 weeks ago. So, and then this is just 2 plants. You can see there's one. There's the other one. This is a clone I took in our class. Okay.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Very cool, man.
All right, so I'll go up front. What's up, Silver?
I gotta go, guys. I'm at work right now, like you guys can see. And I'm fucking enjoying that lunch. My time's up, and I gotta go. See you guys.
Peace, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for the info, brother.
Those of you guys that are more interested, he's Silver Arm 32. He's one of the oldest, I think the oldest aquaponic cannabis streamer on YouTube. So, or video uploader.
And he's a hoot too. He's a hoot.
Yep. So check out his YouTube channel, Silver Arm 32. I think it's in the. Pretty sure it's in the description. If not, I'll add that.
Well, that's cool. So I was halfway right that Dutch Passion's the only people that could sell it. So I was half-assed right, but that's good information. Now we know. I'm going to do a little back checking through our channels and find out what the story is on our side, just to keep that little thing going on. It's kind of cool. We're all talking about blueberries.
Causing drama.
Well, no, it's not drama. No, I love it. I love it because
Just
we really know something that is really the root of how it happened, and we're going through the. So now I want to find out on our end if that's where our blueberry, because our blueberry is amazing. So
How far are you from that fire, Marty?
I'm actually quite a ways from the fire, but because it's so big, you can see it is pretty smoky here.
Wow.
But that fire is hit. I think it hit 100,000 acres today. So it's
Wow.
You guys
it's
that
getting
live
real
out
for Brookings. What's that?
No, you guys that live out there. I have friends in California. They were always underneath the same thing. The wildfires going out there. That's just crazy. Like
Yeah,
leaving your
tough.
house because it might burn down and shit. You know, I call the house. Wow.
It's a
Nice
concern.
garden.
Yeah, so this is what we call the salad bar. You can see we got some green peas over there. There's some green beans, excuse me. Some sage here in front, which is, I just pulled some other ones out that were here because they were getting big. Raspberry, which is kind of got jacked up in our last windstorm. A bunch of them kind of snapped. So I got to figure out something to do about that. Bunch of green onions just got replanted, and then you can see all my shard seedlings. And I think that's a mystery one back here. I think it's some kind of watermelon, but my son just throws tons of seeds in, so not really well documented. This is some fennel that I just bought at the store. And when you buy it, it still kind of has the bud on it. A lot of times it doesn't have roots, but so it didn't have roots on it, but I just stuck it in there, and sure enough, started growing. But you can see the tomatoes are really going crazy. They're growing all the way up over here. Got some nice big fat ones in there. They're all the way through, come down the other side.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And so there's one that's not in a dual root zone. There's one that's in a bigger dual root zone. And then there's one in the small dual root zone. And they've all sort of grown together, so I don't really know what's what, but they all look fine to me. They all look fine to me. I think we got a couple turned red over here. Let me see. There's one. Gonna be tasty.
Oh
So, yeah,
yeah,
Nice.
that's like that fresh fruit off your own.
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. There should be some. Oh yeah, some green beans here. Quite a few of them. Oh yeah, there's some shard in here too. Forgot about that. So yeah, we call this the salad bar.
That's a
Come out
shard,
here.
not a bok choy.
What's that?
That's not a bok choy.
Nope, it's a rainbow Swiss chard that happens to be green.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
The ducks sound happy.
Yep.
Now, how big a reservoir does somebody have to have for that size garden, Marty?
This one is probably, let's see. Get out of here, cat. I'm going to say that's probably like maybe 80 to 100 gallons.
Okay, and how many square feet are you able to do? And are you at maximum? All right, so 80 to 100 gallons in a. All right, see, okay. And how many feet are you at maximum capacity as far as your grow beds?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I just sort of built it to fit the space. And I only keep, let's see, there's only, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goldfish in there right now.
How big are they?
Oh, not very. I would say the biggest one is like 6 inches, and the rest of them are smaller in that sort of 3 to 5 inch category. I don't know if you can see them or not.
Excuse me. Yeah, barely, but I can see an orange thing down there, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Cruising around.
Only 6 of them. Okay.
Are you gonna? I mean, I'm fine.
Yeah, so I usually have really low stocking densities, usually with goldfish or koi or catfish. And so for the most part, I don't worry about like loading up with lots of fish. So I'm probably not at maximum capacity. I could probably put more fish in and grow more plants or have another grow bed, but I don't really have good space for it.
So for the grow bed you got, they're producing the nitrogen levels you're looking for. That's the answer, right?
Yep. Yeah, they get nitrogen, and then everything else gets supplemented through worm tea, which is this is my sort of latest worm bin here, my junk pile over here, which is just a tote. Need some soil in there right now, but it drains out here in the bottom.
Wow, cool. Now, how's it drain out in that bottom? How do you keep it from just completely going through that drain in the bottom of that tub?
Just like in the dual root zone where you have the separator paper in the dual root zone to keep the soil from coming out. I do the same thing in the bottom of the worm bin.
Okay. So just something that keeps the matter from falling through the hole. You just let it drip through, strain through, so to speak.
Yeah, and then the other thing you can do is put a layer like part way in between, like put a layer up here somewhere. So, sorry, that's not focusing very well. But put a layer in here, almost like you're making a sip. And then that way you can have a layer down at the very bottom where you can pull that back and then harvest just small castings from the bottom or compost from the bottom that doesn't have food buildup in it. So then that's what you would then put into here on top of the dual root zone.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, yeah, I got an idea of what you said. Yeah. So you're having basically you're having something drip out. You're having matter there that you can use as compost, so to speak, and then you've got what's on top decomposing.
Right. And then you generally don't want food just breaking down in your systems.
Right.
So that way, when you do pull stuff out to put in your dual root zone, it doesn't have, like pieces of banana peel that aren't broken down or different stuff like that, because it doesn't get down through that separator paper.
Right. Okay. I got you. You got yeah.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Any other questions on the salad bar?
No, thank you. That's the best tour we ever had of that. Finally, yeah. Waiting. Well, I'm getting ready to start a little thing for my vegetables and kind of try to take advantage of our fall growing season, which is really strong. And I think I'm going to try to buy fish because I already got tubs and reservoirs. So I'm thinking about buying some fish in the next week or so. I was trying to get with Steve on that today, and I got access to a whole bunch of different kind of fish. But you guys recommended goldfish without a doubt for beginners, even though I've been growing for a long time and I'm a commercial hydroponics grower. You're
going to kill fish. You're going to
kill fish.
I'm going to still kill fish, right? So for everybody out there, I just wanted to clarify that once again. And I thought that was a great point Marty and Steve and the guys made last week or so when we keep talking about this, because I keep bending their ear about the new systems. I'm getting new people involved. So all right, that's great. So yeah, I'm still going to kill fish no matter what. So I'm going to build a little hoop house because I bought the benders you can put on you could use a picnic table, or I got a big 12x7 wooden trailer. You screw them down on there and you can bend a 12-foot by 10 or a 16 or a 20-foot wide by 10-foot long sections, and you can make them as long as you want really. But the bottom line is you start at 10 feet with 1 3/8 top rail from fencing. And you can build it in like a few hours and you got a hoop house. So I'm thinking of building one of those hoop houses and putting some framing on the ends and stuff like that. And put it out there because I think I can keep it. We get, again, it's about goldfish will live through real cold weather, right? Yep. I mean, like how cold, Steve, can they get?
As long as they're properly aerated, they can live underneath the ice.
Yeah, I've had them down below 10 below zero.
Yeah, you just need a hole in the ice so that the gas exchange.
Yep. So here in where I live, we might get down into the high 20s a few days a year in the late December and early January. And other than that, we stay in the 40s at night. So I think I can have a very successful little startup with that because of my
insulate the shit out of that little box. Maybe even put your fish tank in an old top-loading freezer with the top, and then cut holes in it for aeration so that if it's super cold, you can put the lid on or close the lid.
I'm more worried about it being super hot because it's more like there's more months that it's 100 degrees than there are nights that are below 40. So what are we going to do in this real hot environment, which is the majority of our grow season?
Well, your water is not going to get super hot usually. If it does, what you can do is you can always run a separate closed loop and run that into the ground. So you can run like a closed loop PEX line that just does a closed loop pump with glycol or water in it that just circulates water from inside your grow bed or sump tank into the ground, and then bury it, 3 or 4 feet under the ground.
Right.
And then you can bleed the heat off into the ground that way because the ground's 50 some degrees.
Yeah, similar to like heat pump and radiant heating type.
Yeah, but you're using it in reverse. You're kind of radiant cooling that way.
That's an awesome way to do it. I bet that's very cool.
And it's energy efficient.
Never even thought of going that way.
Running a little tiny closed loop like that, you can run that on a little DC powered, little tiny DC powered pump. It doesn't take a whole hell of a lot for that. So
Yeah, solar. Buy one of those little solar kits. I'm sorry, I got knocked out for a few seconds there. It just dropped me. I had to get back in. But well, thanks. Because that's why I'm thinking that I won't have. So see, that's the one thing. Like you said, if the water's not directly in the sunlight and you got shade over it, then the water's cool enough for the fish.
Alrighty. If anybody in chat has any questions,
Did I lose
viewers,
Steve?
let me know. No.
Oh,
Yeah, if anyone in chat or viewing has a question, let us know. I have an answer. What's new with you, Tommy and Dorian?
Well, new is we went on a long road trip. Thank goodness for Cannabis and Kratom. I got through it a massive road trip with no oxycodons and everything, which is pretty exciting. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I loved going up to the eclipse. I love all the celestial mechanics of it. And if anybody wants some nerd eye candy, go to a YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day. And these guys caught the best eclipse in the whole country. They figured out not only where the line of the eclipse was going to be, but they found the single spot in the country where if they were there at the right time, they would be able to see the eclipse and see the space station transit the sun during the eclipse. And the fuckers caught it.
I seen a picture of that.
Oh man, it was tits. It was so tits. I got goosebumps right now. It's like, that is a nerd's nerd right there. Those guys won the day.
I must be a nerd because that gave me goosebumps thinking about it again.
Oh man,
that was a cool picture.
It was in the middle of an Indian reservation. Nobody ever goes back there. They talk their way onto this guy's property. He's like, okay, you can watch this stuff, then get the fuck out of here. But they caught it for real. And
What state was that in?
It was in Wyoming, and back on an Indian reservation. And they didn't know this guy. They just picked the coordinates out on the planet, and they worked their way in there and said, dude, we got to set up our cameras. Here's what's going to happen on your property. It's the only place in the world that this is going to happen at this particular time. Can we set our cameras up? And he said, yeah, go ahead.
How cool.
So Smarter Every Day is where you can see the video of that. But other than that, we've been doing a lot of traveling, a lot of laughing. I was fortunate enough to go attend. If anybody hasn't, you really should. I got to go attend Steve's class in Half Moon Bay. Dorian and I checked it out. We visited the big aquaponics facility there. And boy, I mean, it was really awesome to get all that information put together. Marty was facilitating a lot of stuff on the Hangouts, and Steve was running around teaching it. So we got to do that. That was pretty groovy. And now we're heading back south. We have a couple aspects of the project we're working on. We have to get together and just kind of catching up from the journey. It's all been good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That was
Quite the trip. So, working on a grow here. I'll be able to talk more about it here at some point soon. As always. Hopefully sooner than later. Just waiting
I'm sure
on
it'll be worth it.
More things. So.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. What's new with you, Hogmaster?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just been spending a lot of time on the forums at ILGM and trying to help everybody I can. Harvested my blueberry the other day and doing pretty good, man. Started me a new OG Kush that I'm gonna scrog, and I got some Amnesia Haze that I started also.
Nice.
Besides that, same old stuff, man.
Oh, there is something new.
Tell them about your mom.
There's something new I forgot to add. I got to taste the cold pressed
Tell them
rosin
about your mom.
that Steve makes out of bubble.
Go ahead.
Holy shit, that is the smoothest dab I have ever had. Period. End of story. It was freaky. Really smooth. Just ridiculous.
No, what Roger's saying about my mom, she actually was trying the CBD oil, her and my father, and they both have liked it so well that they are ordering another batch, which shocks the shit out of me because my mother's the straightest laced person you'd ever know, and she's finally starting to get it. So it's kind of nice to see them weaning themselves off of their medications.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah.
Pretty,
Feeling those.
yeah, pretty excited about it.
I finally got my dad to use just some coconut oil lotion that I'll make. He'll use that for like arthritis in his knees and stuff like that. So one step at a time.
Yep, I'm on my 5th day for my coconut oil that's cooking. So still got 3 more days after tomorrow around 11.
Well, no, tomorrow you drain it. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you just do a second soak. You don't have to use quite as much oil on the second soak. You just want to not leave anything behind, you know, when, especially if you're making a topical. It doesn't matter, you know, just get all the goodies in there.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
No terpene left behind. Is that the?
No terpenes. Oh,
Right.
yeah. That was definitely one thing I wanted to reiterate from Tommy is when you're decarbing a closed container, either vac pack and boil, or you know, put them in a jar. You know, because it'll recapture your terpenes. So, just wanted to reiterate that from last week. I thought that was really good idea.
Yeah, I really want to try it in a canning setup because it's already built for that.
That was a neat trick to put in place.
So, Larry in chat asks, how much medicine do you put in the jar? I guess whatever size jar you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had about 2 ounces in mine.
Until the lid won't close.
What's got to do
As much as you can fit. You don't want to leave any open space or anything like that we would do in, you know, like some ferments or different stuff like that.
I do it in
so you do
pressure.
close it all the way up, get tight
Yeah.
so that it can't. All right, okay. There's more.
I do it in
more pressure.
larger batches, so I use pressure pots.
Pressure, just pressure. Okay, good. Good. That was a real good question to clarify that even to me, because I thought you would allow it to, because the way you said it, it allows it to escape and then it comes back. You know, I thought you had to leave room, but you don't. You pack it in there. So when you're saying it leaves, it comes through the process. It's the right. Explain it for everybody again, just briefly. That part of the
There's
process.
2 things. One of the main problems you're going to find is when you're decarboxylating, how it smells up the entire neighborhood. Everybody knows you're decarboxylating. That means everybody's smelling your medicine. So in the decarboxylating stage, you want to have it, you know, seriously sealed up, and you let it heat up in the oven or heat up in the water bath, however you're doing it. And then you just let it cool down for an hour or 2, and it'll still smell a little bit when you open it up, but it won't rake the house. So that's reabsorbed. And once you add the oil to it, you're going to get a lot less escape of the terpenes, because the the saturated fats are going to pull. They're very good at binding the terpenes. Lipophilic bonds is basically what you're looking at there. And so rather than escaping into the air, it's very easy for that terpene molecule that you've kept in there, you didn't lose it during decarboxylate. Now it's easy for it to bind with an oil. I haven't tried decarboxylating after I've added the oil. That's something I want to experiment with. Because, at those temperatures and stuff, you can just simply, change the temperature and let it decarboxylate. I just don't know if you would have enough oxygen content in the oil to properly facilitate dealing with that last molecule on the acid chain there. I'll figure it out, though.
Oh, thank you, though, because you brought it up last week since we talked about it. I thought it'd be great to have you just run through it again. So, like that. That was real neat, though. I think somebody here on the panel may or may not allegedly be trying some of your methods and add them to their own methods this week.
Good.
Call me
The
out,
best
Roger.
So glad you guys are sharing it.
I saw nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll know about results of all that down the road here shortly.
If anybody has any questions in chat, feel free to ask questions.
Please.
No, it's
All right. Well,
is there any topics maybe you guys feel we haven't touched on enough before? Maybe something you guys have run into lately you guys want more in depth on?
I just want to start well, I'm going to shut up and let everybody else answer first. And if nobody answers, I have an answer.
Well, I'm going to take off, guys. I'm going to start cooking dinner for the family. Anybody wants to check out my channel, just YouTube, Fish Ganja Guy, Instagram, Fish Ganja Guy. And I think we need to start a campaign to get Steve on Instagram so we can see a little more updates on what the hell he's doing.
Yeah, as soon as I'm allowed to show you guys, which will be soon.
All right, guys. Have a
Take
great
care,
night,
bud.
and I will see you soon.
All right, peace.
I can say I may or may not be working on a 22,000 square foot grow somewhere in California. I can say
Probably not. Probably not doing that. Yeah.
I think that's as much as I can say without getting myself in trouble.
That would be a sight to see.
Nobody's got something they'd like to talk about or think that needs to be revisited, or asking Steve and Marty and them what they need to ask them about growing or something like that? Because otherwise I'm jumping in there, boys. You know how I can talk.
Well, I did want to mention something that you had just addressed. What I learned in the class, or also talking to Steve with that flushing question, is the flushing is not like you would do it in a soil or a cocoa, whatever, kind of like how Grandmaster level just flushes the shit out of his stuff. He builds the room for flushing, and that's where he's really just draining everything out of the medium. Where what Steve was explaining is in the flush in a dual root zone, by feeding the sugars and a limited amount of water, you're basically super pumping the microbes, so the microbes help leach the things out rather than simply depending on mechanical flushing and the osmosis basic principle. So it's not the same where you're dropping everything in through the bottom into your fish tank. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do that. It works a little differently. And the other side of that is the requirements for flushing are not the same as in other growing methods, because you're using 30% of the nutrients. You're not depending on all that stuff. You're pulling a lot of things up from the water, so your requirements are less and your methodology a little bit less. But it's more than just a standard flushing. You're utilizing part of the ecosystem to actually accomplish that goal. But did I get that right, Steve?
Yep. So using things like lactobacillus ferments and just a couple of new ones that we're toying with. Thanks to Tommy, kind of introduced me to some new ideas that we're going to be playing with in that regard.
Which was great. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. And yeah, so you basically feed off your microbes, and they kind of do like a microbial purge, and that works really good. In place of your draining, breaks down all the extra minerals and whatever else that might be left over that would add flavor, and kind of allows the plants to not have to. The other thing it does is it allows the plants to not have to use as much sugars, give up as much sugars in order to get the same exchange of nutrients in the root system. So you end up with the plants being able to retain a lot more sugars rather than having to give it up in exchange for nutrients. And you end up having a sweeter plant overall, not necessarily putting the sugars in the plant, but
not losing them, right?
Yep.
Even I can learn stuff about growing. I'll tell you, I was just geeking after that whole class. It'll fill your skull up. It is so awesome.
Anyone that doesn't think they can learn something, still learn something about growing in this day and age, well, they got to know if they're keeping up, they're going to have another thing coming because they're going to learn something new. Depending on where you look, you can learn a lot of new shit. But I still like the fact that you can still grow naturally, and it still can't be any better than it was always great. But there are so many thoughts and sciences and things being developed now that you really can enhance the growth. Like when you're getting down to more trichome development and the higher terpenes, that's where the science is getting really cool. I mean, I don't care what method you use, but if you do the things that increase that, then I think, that's where I'm really getting blown away with the newer sciences. And then, of course, all you guys doing the waxes and the concentrates and the extractions and all that stuff for the medical side, to not have to smoke. Because the biggest argument against medical marijuana has been you still have to smoke it. Now that's not a thing anymore. You don't have to smoke anything anymore. So I'm loving it being part of the industry, and I'm waiting. We're real close on the state that's bordering me, and I might be moving soon. But I'll wait. I'm not gonna jinx it. I'm not gonna say nothing. But there's a state that might actually legalize that's in the South, and I don't know if it's gonna. Might have just been bullshit. I've been waiting for that second story to come out. I hadn't seen much about it, but I hadn't really had time to go look and research it. But if it does, it's only 6 hours away, and I've got a place to live already if I was to move there. 6 hours away, and that's close enough to get back to my family because I'm fortunate to have both my parents still alive. I don't want to be too far away. I mean, I've had West Coast offers for 10 years, and I've got lovely parents, and I just don't want to be out in the West Coast and get stuck, can't make it back, something happens, so I feel fortunate to have them, so I'm going to stick it out, and I'm not. And I want to live another 10 years, which means y'all never going to get me on the West Coast. Maybe we'll finally get lucky in one of these southern states, besides Florida, which is all messed up. And I'm not going to Arkansas, sorry. I'm just not going to move to Arkansas.
No offense to anyone in Arkansas.
Send all your email, if you don't like that, to apmeds@gmail. And Marty will be glad to field all your complaints. Did he? I'm going to get paid back for that, bro.
Sounds good.
Hey, by the way, I've been watching you do your room there. Everybody's talking, but I saw you doing what you're doing. I clicked on it, and yeah, that's cool. Nice setup. I like that. I love the fact that you're a fan of Panda Plastic like me. I love that stuff. It's the freaking grow room, man. Just like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I could, I figured I could, just make the space a little bit bigger just by sort of building on to the wall. And you can see I got on the other side here, I have my little CMH set up. And I got a bunch of shit on the table here right now because I'm working, but that's all set up on this side. And so it's 8 by 12 in here.
Yeah,
And
cool.
I think that's about $100 in Panda plastic and about maybe $120 in lumber or so. So nothing fancy. And I ordered it's 12 by 8, so I didn't even have to cut anything. I just ordered 12-foot and 8-foot 2x4s. So this is the super lazy man grow space right here.
There you go. It's because you can build shelves anywhere you want. That's what I love about a natural wood shelter. I used to build stuff out of furring strips. You screw them together. You screw enough stuff together, it's pretty rigid, and you can use it for grow tables. I had a aeroponics system, you know, that I developed years ago just to throw together out of tubs and stuff, just like beginning aquaponics guys. I got a bunch of tubs and plumbing and figured out a way to spray the roots and had it, you know, but I built I built the frame out of 1x2 furring strips instead of 2x. It still did the job. Once you screw enough sections together, you know, it's not going anywhere unless you jump. I mean, you can't climb on it like you could. You could actually make a bed up there if your plants weren't growing. But yeah, people don't realize how easy it is if you just got a little ingenuity and you can measure something. Or like you said, I love it. I just bought 8 foot and 12 foots and put them together because I don't have to cut nothing. So, you know, just get a screw gun and good screws. You know.
The IKEA version of a grow room.
I love it. I love it. You could do anything, put shelves anywhere. You could have all the mothers in there. You could easily put a little cabinet for moms in there with some nice T5 lighting and just, just, man, just everything. 8 by 12 is what my room, my killer room used to be 8 by 12. It was an 8 by 14, but I had 2 feet on the end behind the wall. I put a wall upside 2 feet of leeway outside the room, you know. Whatever.
I also wanted to mention on September 7th, barring anything else, we're going to have Endocanna on the show. Dustin is a friend of mine, and he's I forget what his exact position is at the company there, but they make all different kinds of really cool high-end distillates and isolates and tinctures, and he's their CEO, and he'll be on the show with us, so that'll be really cool. So I wanted to mention that he's also has a pretty powerful story about how cannabis has helped him in his life and help him with his particular health problems. He has a kind of a rare disease that has been significantly alleviated thanks to the cannabis, and he'll be on talking about that. So.
That's awesome. Another great. I love the testimonials. You know, we've got so many members and friends that are, they're all gone, can give us testimonials about this.
Yep. So that'll be awesome to have him on.
I think patients are my favorite guest. As much as I enjoy having all the experts on and to talk about the science, I think in terms of my own personal enjoyment, I always enjoy hearing from patients more than anybody else.
So we had a question from chat. It says, I'm not sure if you guys touched this today, but someone is about to start my aquaponics setup, slowly gathering materials for a system. I'm thinking I will try to start in December or January. I have a 165-gallon stock tank. I've acquired a fish tank liner for it, for that size tank. What kind of, a little bit of echo.
That might be me. I'm on my phone.
Okay. We have a 165-gallon stock tank. I've acquired fish safe liner for it. For that tank size, what kind of flood and table could I expect to utilize for that? I would say you could get at least three by 3s off of that if you wanted to.
So it's like the size of Marty's garden.
Media.
That's basically the size of Marty's garden in the backyard.
Yeah.
I guess mine on the front is essentially like 2 by 8, I guess. I think you could probably do twice that if you really wanted to.
3 by 12, 4 by 12.
So to make sure that your fish still have room to swim, and the thing's fully, if both your beds flood at the same time, that that it gives them room. And then it also says, also, what type of plants can I start in cold weather, high 20s and 30s in the wintertime? I probably wouldn't run the aquaponics system if it's going to freeze up. It just creates a lot of problems unless you can throw a little, even if you just build a little hoop house out of it, over PVC and some plastic, and throw it over that, it'll really help keep that system a lot warmer.
Yep. And double poly, put plastic,
yep.
double poly, and take a little well, you can buy, but you can take a hair dryer, and you can figure out, you get the double poly and you seal it. You can put the hair dryer. You can even buy attachments, put the hair dryer in there, turn it on, and blow hot air between the two plastic. If you've got a real cold desert environment or mountain environment, and you can actually save a lot of heat by, you want to buy 6 mil UV poly or UV and IR poly if you're going to buy 2 sheets. For a small greenhouse, it wouldn't be that expensive. You can run the hot air and the dual poly, what they call dual poly. Any greenhouse application is how you can search for it, and that'll decrease the coldness a whole bunch around it, you know. And it's not that expensive, really. That poly will last you 4 to 6 years if you take care of it, especially if you throw shade cloth over it in the summer.
Yeah, and so the other thing you can do too is have some type of heater for your fish tank, because remember that even though like you can deal with a lot lower ambient temperatures if you have even just semi-warm water going to the roots, especially for cold water crops. If you know, like most of the time, even when you get seeds, you look on the back and it can, you know, kind of tells you what their growing season is. So that's one way you can get an idea for that. But some of your more hardy, thicker stuff, you know, generally grows a little bit better in the wintertime. So you could grow like kale, for instance, green onions. Some of these things would probably grow a little bit slower, especially when it gets cold. But the advantage of having warm water circulating throughout the root system will allow you to deal with some pretty low temperatures for most of those plants. And that'll also heat up the greenhouse. Yeah, even if it's not a greenhouse, though, is what I'm saying. Like on my front porch, for instance, that system out there isn't covered at all. But when it gets super cold outside, in order to keep it from freezing, I drop a small fish tank heater in there, and we'll run it for even just a couple hours, or even leave it in overnight and unplug it the next day if I was really concerned about power. But usually I just throw it in and leave it in until it starts to warm up pretty consistently. And you can get, you know, just a regular aquarium heater you can get from, you know, the pet store. Well, at least keep it from freezing up. And if you have some decent cold weather plants, then you can run them even through, you know, freezing temperatures.
They even sell heaters you can buy online that are good for 200 and 300 gallon tanks, where you can actually manipulate it and keep it right in the 60s or 70s, you know, whatever it is for your fish. You know, again, I think that wouldn't hurt the cold weather plants either, would it, Marty? 60, 70, it'd still be great. But I use that for my 300 gallon tank. I use it's a big bar, but it'll keep it in the 60s or 70s instead of just letting it be real cold and then spraying my plants with that real cold solution. Yeah. You know,
You can definitely use the water mass is, you know, controlling the temperature of it is going to be your most effective thing to do in a greenhouse, unless you have like a geothermal kind of situation set up. You know, controlling the temperature of your water, even through like a solar heater, you know, is going to help you can deal with some pretty low ambient air temperatures. If you have a warmer reservoir of water, especially circulating and aerated.
Because it's important to keep the roots warm, you know, for everybody. You know, it helps to keep the roots warm. So, yeah, that's cool. It's all the different grow methods, you know, joining together here. Same thing. You know how to keep it cold. That's cool. That's good information, though. But yeah, the bigger the pool you got, the bigger the reservoir you got. If you got it warm, well, there again is a heater for your greenhouse. If you want to have like a hoop house or something, close it up with plastic or with, you know, there's all kinds of stuff. If you got the money, you can do some cool stuff. They make polycarbonate panels, you know, you can do all kinds of stuff. You could build a thing with a structure with dual pane gas-filled windows, you know, and that thing would stay toasty in there, you know. But, you know, you got to have a lot of bucks. You know, to me, a greenhouse is a greenhouse, and, you know, and you want to be able to make it. Well, we don't have tons of money. We want to find out concepts and ideas to help the average guy that don't have a ton of money, but we could teach him how to grow his own food or his own meds. And that's what I'm up for, you know. And you guys are great, man. But see, this guy's the guy in chat's right on the same, you know, method or thoughts that I am tonight about starting up. So I hope we answered his question. Can I ask a question about now? How many reservoirs exactly do you need? Do you just need an ebb and flow table and one reservoir for your fish? Don't you need something for a filter, or is there other filtering your guys are using? How does a guy get started? How many reservoirs does he do?
Depends on the size of the system. If you're just running like 2 or 3 beds, you don't really need it. You know, as long as you got really good worms, you're using your lactobacillus ferments, and a little bit of compost tea, you're going to have your microbial action more than enough to break down that stuff. Now, once you get up bigger than that, then you're gonna, you know, then you're talking about, you know, filtration and some solids collection and things like that. In fact, if you're interested, there's a really good walkthrough and explanation that Ken did on my YouTube channel. We're actually going to have a 3D version of that thanks to Old Fart Grows here too.
Oh, cool. So that's kind of what we're looking at is in here. I've got a 500-gallon tank. Oh, but that brings me back to something you said a while ago that clarified another point about why you need what size reservoir, or why you're limited to your space of your bed is because you said it candidly a while ago. It's about you can't leave your fish on the bottom of the tank with no fluid in it. You gotta when you're flooding stuff, you gotta still have fluid in the tank for the fish. Okay, so that's an important point.
Pull out all the water and tell the fish it's time to evolve.
Yeah. I've gotten, you know, plans from people where, you know, if they would have filled up their grow beds, then then all of their water tanks would have been empty. You know, so you just there's a certain amount of calculation that has to be done, and I feel like, you know, there's a lot of formulas out there for like fish density and all of that kind of stuff, and it's not that they don't make sense, but it's a sort of a sliding scale, because if I have 10 fish in here and I feed them the same amount of food as if I had 5 fish in here, really they'll consume the same amount of food over time. So your input's really your food, not so much how many fish you have in the system, other than you need like air supply for them, and there's a couple of other things. But in most of the time when they're talking about like calculating out fish density or your grow bed size, you're talking about how many nutrients you need to essentially maintain a balance. So for your plants to be able to grow, but not so much that you have so many nutrients coming in that it starts becoming toxic to the fish. And so the nutrient aspect of it is still your input. It's how much you're feeding them, as opposed to how many fish you ultimately have. So I feel like the grow bed, like how much grow bed space you can use, also kind of gets skewed a little bit too, because are you using it for lettuce, or are you using it for cannabis or cucumbers or raspberries? You know, like there's a few good baseline calculations out there, but it does require a little bit of hands-on experience, I guess, is about the only way to sort of really get a personal measure of it. Obviously, you can talk to somebody that's done it and say, I want to grow this many plants, or I want to have this size system, and then it's a little bit easier to be able to anticipate what that's going to be. But just saying I want to grow this much grow bed space doesn't really tell us what we need to know. If you want to grow 4x8 worth of cucumbers, then that's going to be a lot different than 4x8 worth of lettuce. Does that make sense?
Well, in some ways, but you still have to flood it with the same volume, don't you?
Right. So that calculation is a little bit different than the nutrient aspect of it. Again, like if you need 200 gallons to fill up all of your grow beds to 2/3 of the way full, which is how full it's going to get before you siphon, or halfway full, then you need that much water in the tank to be able to pump it out of the tank, right? I mean, that just
So if you have your grow beds and they're filled with grow media, you're going to displace approximately 50% plus minus 10% depending on the media you're using.
Right. Okay.
So if it's a 50-gallon, which is a 3x3 grow bed, you're looking at 25 gallons that it's going to fill up with. And if it's a 75-gallon, you're looking at, whatever 50% of that is, 35,
And
37 and a half, whatever it is.
And the amount of fish you use in that space in that reservoir is determined by how many fish it takes before you get to the nitrogen level you want.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'd have what if you added a second tank? What are you added a second tank to take off that higher ppm and move it into water to blend it? I mean, so you could have water.
That wouldn't do anything.
It wouldn't. Why is that?
Because your fish rate's the same. Yeah, you could dilute it a little bit, but you'd have to have more grow beds to have the export. So you could daisy chain a whole bunch of sump tanks and have them run their own set of grow beds. That's fine.
Oh, I see. Okay, you just keep. Well, that's what I'm saying. Basically, you can make a larger grow area by adding more tanks to run out of the original fish tank and run it through and recirculate it.
Yep.
Okay, so that's how you get a larger grow, and every tank can just run its own line. Okay. A row, like I look at it as a row. So.
Yeah, who just joined us here?
Now, here's the thing. Aquaponics dummy. I want to bring this up to people since we're on this volume thing. There's a difference though. Like in aquaponic dummy, he's using culverts.
He's doing aeroponics, but his system's cool, but his system isn't scalable to commercial and really.
Well, that's a good point. Well, nobody has to buy the culverts the size he does either. I mean, you could buy a 12-inch PVC pipes and do it, and probably save. That'd be a way less. I don't know if you could do that. Well, old hydroponics, they had a lot of stuff just like that, just tons of pipes or trays or whatever, for like lettuce and stuff. But but they're so big, and you're right. You could put a lot more plants in the same space he's putting because of the size of the culvert in an ebb and flow. But then you have that restriction about the volume. So, well, okay, good answer though. It's not commercially feasible.
He gets really bomb. Yeah, he gets really bomb results for sure.
Oh, he gets killer results. I mean, and it's an extraordinary system. But I've done the same thing to him because why do you have to have that? It's like you're spraying it and it's like there's all this air. I mean, well, it works. It works. There's no doubt. But watching his results, there's no questioning that.
Well, so Larry says you have to have your biofilter large enough to do the work. Not necessarily. You can cheat. You can use stuff like lactobacillus ferments that'll just annihilate all that fish waste and get rid of it and liquefy it and make it plant available again without even having to. I mean, you can just straight up cheat by doing that. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Marty could probably speak really well on that more than the rest of us.
Don't you guys think it's better to teach to go ahead if you can do it to have a filter as to not having a filter and trying to cheat? Don't you think it's better to teach them they need a filter?
Well, I think that it's important to remember that a grow bed is a filter. If you're using a grow bed with media in it, then part of its function is to be a filter. So it kind of depends on, a little bit like what Larry said, that, it does depend a little bit on like your bio colony. So for instance, I wouldn't recommend doing an aquaponics system where you are trying to do like a deep water culture or like a floating raft bed kind of situation without a grow bed or a sump tank or somewhere where you can have a surface area for the colonies of microbes that you want to be in there. Even though, like Steve said, you can cheat a little bit, we do want them to be an established colony that we can boost when we want to. So I do feel like you do still need a baseline, but especially in smaller systems, like you guys have seen all mine are relatively small. I have 4 smaller systems, and I've had various systems along the way. And I don't run any other kind of filtration in them. I don't have a sump tank. And I primarily use microbes and red worms. I keep a lot of red worm bins separately, and I'm consistently overpopulating my beds with red worms, and to help break down those solids, and then adding in ferments that are done with lactobacillus on top of that really helps break them down. I think we talked about that in the podcast a couple episodes ago as well. When I went through my outdoor beds, normally when the season starts and it starts warming up and I want to start growing winter or spring crops in there, and I take out all the old winter stuff, and there's always a fair amount of solids in there that have been built up. And this year I went through and threw in a bunch of Bokashi brand, just EM1 Bokashi brand, which of course is on the porch right now. I can't show it to you, but it's I got mine from Terragenics. You can get Grokashi. Actually, Alan could really talk about this a lot if he was here. But lactobacillus is it's like a super microbe, and it can thrive in anaerobic environments, and it can survive aerobic environments. So we want our systems to be aerobic. We don't really want anaerobic zones too much, other than in a controlled space, like maybe the bottom of your dual root zone is probably somewhat anaerobic. Steve can probably answer that, but I think that you want the lactobacillus to help break down those solids and search out those anaerobic zones, which are going to are likely to happen where you have buildup of solids anyway. So they show up and they thrive in those anaerobic zones until the food source is gone, which is the poop. So I had good luck with not even cleaning out my beds from last season. You guys saw the media beds out there. I didn't clean any of them out for this season, and they still look great, and I'm having really good luck with it. And so in terms of filtration, yes, you do need filtration, but if you're using media beds, then that is your filtration, as long as it's properly sized. Like obviously, if I had a ton of fish, if I had a ton of fish in this tank, like if I had more than say 50 fish inside this tank right here, then I would probably need more filtration than what I have. So I'd either have to add more ferments more often, or add another grow bed that would stick out farther, that I could add more red worms to help break down the volume that I'm adding to the system. So the input, again, is not necessarily the number of fish you have, but how much you're feeding them. So this is the true input. Like, they're not going to create poop if you don't feed them anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah, and he also, it touches on again why a few fish, like, so you're going to go with smaller beds. So kind of what, I thought you were going to say it, but you didn't quite get there, but great information. So what we're saying is that if you're using a smaller system with smaller beds with the dual root zone, and you're doing it correctly, you probably don't need a filter in that respect. You need a filter as you get larger with more fish, because you have more fish matter to deal with.
Yeah, you don't need a filter other than your media beds. Right,
because it's absorbing it. Okay.
Right, it is right. So right here, I have two beds, right? I don't know if you guys can see, but those are basically two filters that are collecting solids. My worms are breaking them down. And then I have seeds in here right now, and this will, where I have stuff outside of the dual root zone, will eventually be different greens and stuff to absorb the nitrogen, all my companion plants. And then I'm adding tea in from that. Let's see. I can't really move the camera down there, but I'll dig it up. I have another worm bin out here, which is just 2 5-gallon buckets. This gets all of my green trim that I pull off, like leaves and stuff. And I don't know if you guys can see, but it's just got holes drilled in the bottom, and it sits on top of the other bucket. And then the tea you get in the bottom comes out pretty clear.
Get a good picture. You're just helping a lot of those aspiring aquaponics guys by you us having a non-guest show tonight and just talking. That's what I love. I meant to say earlier, I love about the shows when we don't have a guest. Still an awesome show because we talk about grow stuff straight up all night long. And I get to bug you guys about and I want to thank you, and I'm sure everybody else on the panel and the people listening want to thank you for letting me drag you back through the stuff you've already told people a million times. But here we are, and well, I know what it's like, but I really appreciate it because it's questions that I had, and I think there's a lot of people getting into it. We've touched on things tonight that really say why to do it this way and not to do it that way, and that's what I'm trying to touch on. And we got great Fish and a couple other guys, and Tommy and Dorian getting really big into aquaponics and having not I think if I remember correctly, he said they hadn't been doing it long, but these guys get into the science and they're awesome. They just eat the science up.
Sometimes I have to hear something a million times before I hear it the first time.
Well, see, I've been in a position for 10 or 12 years where I've been asked a million times, so I understand. So, when you run forums, you know how many times I've been asked what's the correct, even though it's like 9 million places on the forum, how many times somebody asked me what's the proper pH, to grow at, and it's like, So I mean, you have to be nice to this new grower, and like I said, our growers are 45 to 65. A lot of our new members, so I'm really nice to those old folks because they want to get on meds, they want to get off pharmaceuticals. Yep. So I'm thrilled. Our forum is so cool because I got a bunch of old folks. I mean, I'm teaching 67-year-old people how to grow pot. How cool is that? So.
We actually got ECSD joined us while we were talking. What's up, EC?
Nothing much. How about you guys?
You're looking at it.
Just finished doing some transplants the other day. I'm doing some testers for Bodhi seeds, some skunk VA to purple unicorn F3, which I believe is Chem D to blackberry widow to snow lotus, and then also have some other seeds that I'm waiting to sex that I created using a top dog seeds male from Trey Stardog 2.0 and cross it to a bunch of females I had in my room at that time. So one of them is Pretty Wicked, which is a Chem D to Purple Mayhem from North Star, and White Lotus as well from Body Seeds to the top dog male. So just playing with those. I actually just put them on the top of my aquaponic media bed. They end up sucking up a bunch of worms and good beneficials by the time I transplant them into other stuff. And I always notice whenever I put anything on the media bed and I go to transplant, I always find a bunch of worms in those pots. So it's a good, nice little trick I use. But other than that, hanging out and just waiting for the cooler weather in the Northeast. It's easier on the grow room for sure.
Are you running your lights at nighttime to try and offset the AC at all, or?
Yeah, I always run them at night during the summertime. Kind of sucks when you have to work at night in a sense, but definitely helps save a couple degrees in the room for sure.
Yep, I know that. Well, it's cool to have you back. I haven't seen you on in a bit. Is there any
yeah.
What else is new with you? Any other interesting topics or anything you maybe discovered lately or anything? It's been a while since we've had you on the show.
Just having great luck with the media bed and really good luck with the SIPS containers that I built, just using air stones at the bottom. Not actually using the air stone, just running the piping at the bottom with 2 5-gallon buckets from Home Depot, and thinking about putting together an old deep recirculating deep water culture setup I have from my hydroponic days, and figured I'm just going to do that into like a dual root zone or triple root zone, I guess, type setup with the recirculating deep water culture, and just have like a filter bin, maybe with like, I think they're like bio balls or whatever, and something along those lines, and maybe throw in like my burlap or separator filters in there as well to suck up some bennies, because I've had really good success with the dual root zone and deep water culture. It's just like stuff laying around, so might as well use it.
Nice, that's awesome. So I got something in my eye. What the hell?
Looks like your finger.
Right? That's awesome. It's cool that you've been doing a lot of some more dual root zone DWC experimentation. That's awesome.
I like that too, because there's another aquaponic guy starting to do aquaponics, so maybe him and I can hook up and learn some stuff together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the dual root zone deep water culture blew up immediately. I was actually quite surprised. I mean, I just top feed it like aquaponic water and let everything fall down. I actually have like one video I think on my Instagram somewhere where I like pull the bottom off. It's just like white roots and a couple of worms actually like in the deep water culture layer and like in between the roots and stuff. And I was like, yeah, people always say you can't do aquaponics and organic hydro, but it's actually like been the easiest for me in a sense. So it's kind of funny.
Awesome.
I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great information to hear.
Yeah, the first time I built my like custom recirculating deep water culture, I actually wanted to do an aquaponics setup, but believed all the magazines and stuff like, oh no, I need synthetic nutrients, and wish I did aquaponics from there. It would be much better off, but whatever.
We had a question here. Was it Derek asks, what's a good ratio for adding labs to your system? I would say you can add up to 1 gallon per 100 gallons in your system without really screwing anything up. I wouldn't add, you don't really need to add more than that. Remember, it's basically like a microbial inoculant. You're kind of adding it in there to let that go through and chew up the stuff that's in there. I like to add it directly to the plant root systems themselves in the soil layer, but I'll also pour in whatever's left over into the beds usually. I don't know if Marty wants to talk on that.
Yeah, you don't let that go into the flowing fish.
Oh yeah, no, it's fine. I can take the cheese off the top and feed it to him. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So you can let that go in. See, I wanted to clarify that. You
could take the whole. You could take a whole 5. Yeah, you could take a whole 5-gallon bucket and dump it right into the fish tank. It won't hurt nothing. Might lower the pH temporarily in there a little too much, but that's about it.
Okay, that's cool. And 1 gallon per 100 gallons.
Yeah, that'd be a good general ratio. Now, I mean, you could do 1/4 of that and be just fine too. If it was added directly to the beds or the media filter, or your biofilter, whatever you're using, it'll work just as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. It also depends on how diluted it is as well.
Yeah, so it kind of depends on, like, if you, like, normally when I finish making labs, I dilute to store them. I usually dilute it down to like 1 to 10 or even 1 to 20, depending on how strong you want them to be. So, it kind of depends on how much you diluted originally when you make it. But I've added a lot to my systems before, and I've never had anything negative happen. The only thing I had happen that was a little weird was one time it formed a Scooby in my fish tank, which is you guys know who make kombucha. It's basically like this little floating microbial colony. It looks like a mushroom head, and it grew right after. Remember I told you guys I threw a bunch of Bokashi bran in my system, which the Bokashi bran is basically bran that's been inoculated with lactobacillus, so it's like powdered labs basically. And so that combined with the yeast from the bran, those two things combined is what allows those things to form. And they use them all the time, and they use them in making kombucha. They'll cut them up and move them to other ones. So that's the only thing I've had happen in my system. It's been maybe a little bit weird from adding a lot of lactobacillus, but that isn't even a negative thing. It's just sort of a nerdy thing.
Awesome. Got another person ask, how do I buffer my water to about a pH of 7? You add potassium silicate or calcium carbonate a little bit at a time until you, and then wait half an hour and let it circulate in the system, and then you check your pH again, and then you add a little bit more, and you get it depending on, I mean, there's a lot of factors depending on what your current alkalinity is, depending on what your current pH is, depending on the amount of CO2 you're running in the room. If you're doing additional CO2, there's quite a few different things.
But isn't one of those like a pH down and one a pH up adjustment, Steve?
What's that?
The
So if
carbonate.
it was high, you would be using like you could use like a phosphoric acid or fulvic acid or.
Oh, you're talking about if it's too low, you use either
No, if
calcium.
it's too high. Yeah, he was talking about if it's too low, you'd be
Too
adding a
low.
little bit at a time to bring it up. If you wanted to bring it down, then you'd be using something that would be acidic.
Right, exactly. No, I I thought the guy just asked how did he buffer it, and then Steve gave 2 chemicals, or 2 salts or whatever, and I thought is one up and one down. I didn't catch the
They're
fact
both
that he
up.
just how to
Yeah.
bring them
Both,
up.
generally,
They're both
when
up.
you say
Okay.
when you
I
refer
knew
to
calcium
buffering,
carbonate, that's baking soda, right? I mean, I know that. But the other
generally
one was
when
new to
you
me.
refer to buffering, it's adding in some sort of carbonate like that will act as a buffer, as opposed to if you're bringing pH down, you're sort of neutralizing the buffer in order to move it. So
What about lime in an aquaponics system?
Lime is calcium hydroxide, and you generally
Okay.
try to avoid hydroxides.
Okay, so I'm just curious. See, that's another thing to clarify for anybody that might be doing hydroponics or soil and going into this, because they think dual root zone is kind of like a soil or a soilless medium, and then so you don't want to do dolomitic lime in your aquaponic systems.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. Just
hydroxides they're too caustic. They move the pH too much. They don't add much buffer to the system compared to other options. And potassium silicate's an infinitely better potassium supplement. Calcium carbonate or dolomites much better and safer. You're adding calcium magnesium, or you're adding, a much more stable calcium. So
as long as you're adding calcium, then is what you're saying. So, in one way or the other.
Well, not just calcium. So you can add calcium without adjusting the pH. You can use something like a gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, and that'll add calcium without adjusting the pH very much.
And that's what you want to do anyway in aquaponics, right? You want to always
it depends what your pH is. If you have a fish and they're nitrifying the water in the system, then they're going to lower the pH just by the microbial activity, in which case you'd have to raise the pH, which is, in most aquaponic systems, you have to regularly raise the pH.
No, but what I was getting at is you never want to do it too fast.
Yeah. Never more than 0.4 per day.
Just a little, no more than 0.4 per day. All right, that's a measurement I never got before. So there you go, guys. I keep asking them till you get the best killer little tip right there. and here's another thing that goes along with that I learned a while back. To add to this, and then is that when you have directions for anything you might use when you come into a commercial brand or something, you'd never use more than 25% of the suggested use. Like if it says to use a tablespoon per gallon for your soil plants or your hydro plants, you'd never use but a quarter teaspoon. I mean, not a quarter, that's wrong. But whatever, a fourth, 25% of a tablespoon, which is what, 15 milliliters. So you never use more than 3 or 4 milliliters of that product. And some of them are safe and some of them are not safe. And that's something we've been learning. And
then we talked about this in the class over the weekend. You got stuff like yucca extract. Well, yeah, it's OMRI certified and organic, but it'll kill your fish in like 3 minutes flat, all of them. So.
But some people claim it's great for their hydro experiment, without fish. So that's an interesting. You got to watch that. What's good for hydro is not necessarily good for aquaponics. But what I found out is that the science of aquaponics can be good for your hydro system. And some of it. Now you're not going to have the fish, so you're going to have your own way of doing it. But there's a lot of science, like I've not tried any kind of deep. I'm not big on organic and deep water culture. And BC brought that up a while ago. How he's doing it despite the fact that you use organic products in general on deep water culture, and you get really colorful roots, and that freaks people out. It may be healthy, but they're not white anymore. They're not crystalline. But now I'm not sure if you're distilling your own, making your own ferments and all. And doing it, because I'm real interested in hearing what happens with BC in the future, because I'm going to still stay away. Well, again, it's not much different. You say Dummy has he does the aquaponic, you guys have gone to the ebb and flow, and there's nothing. Ebb and flow technology is so simple overall. That I think that I don't see why you could argue with that, and especially since you do commercial grows, and if you can make a commercial ideal small enough for your grow room, it's as good as anything. If it's good for commercial, it'll be the best thing you could ever do in your personal grow room. So I'm looking forward to these more people that come around it are on the border, like VC here, where he's doing deep water culture with a dual root zone, and he says they're blowing up. Yeah. So that's kind of stuff that interests me.
My son used to work in a greenhouse, and one of the lessons he taught me was, Dad, there's perfect, and then there's what you have to do on commercial. So from what I can see, under some of the commercial setups, in a small setup, you could probably dial it in to a gnat's ass even nicer, but it might not scale on the commercial level because the amount of time you would take being foofy, you cannot replicate over an acre. Did I get that right, Dorian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even my kid teaches me stuff. I'm so stupid.
Hey, we got old school, new school, right? At least you're smart enough to accept new school, like me.
Oh, you don't want to argue with Dorian when he's right. It's not going to work out well for you.
Well, that goes without saying for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But Steve's like new school. He's like the older edge of new school, I'd say. He's got a lot of old, things Steve's got in his pocket just blows me away. We were talking about radiant heating in a greenhouse setting one time, and for this situation, I was looking at doing a contract, and he shared some information, which I had known the science, but it didn't occur to me to do. And then a couple of pictures later, and I'm like, oh, okay, exactly. Now I feel like an idiot, but I didn't. Yeah, okay. And when Steve shows you something, some people may not catch it, but what I love about it is you show me a picture and I know what it is. And it's so cool to have friends that have that much, and you guys too. I mean, y'all guys blew me away. I mean, I've met you before, Tommy, but Dorian last week, y'all blew me away with all the stuff you're doing. I love it, man. I really enjoyed listening to you guys, and I love the show. That's why I love the show so much, because there's, like I said, we all keep learning stuff, and the guys are willing to share old school stuff. You can say, well, go watch this podcast, or go watch that, but to be willing to share and do it again, and right now, because we've got a real mixture on this panel now of people and how they grow, and everybody's growing soil and everybody's growing hydroponics on this panel. I believe nobody started with aquaponics, but it's like
you look at how it used to be a while ago. Everybody was hiding in their own little corner, trying to figure out how to do everything without talking about it or whatever. Good golly, that's crazy. And then you look at a brain trust is kind of how I look at a forum like this, where you have people bringing different pieces, and like somebody who's hydro is going to go, oh my gosh, that means such and such, or somebody, who's doing a dual root, they're gonna get the little pieces. It's going to drop in. Where if you're just sitting out there on your own, shit, what are the chances of understanding all this? I think it's pretty much slim and none.
Oh, it takes a while because, when you first start talking to these guys, they're going labs and this and that, and you're going. So I have to break them down and go, wait a minute, stop, back up. Steve and Marty, what the hell are labs? So that's how we learn lactobacillus. See, for you guys that were listening tonight, same thing. Labs, that's lactobacillus. So, and
we had a whole episode on that. It was like a couple episodes ago.
Well, that was when we didn't have a guest last time. We went all through all the ferments and the lactobacillus and stuff like that. In fact, I think Brain Grow was still here. Remember, I got him going on that Korean farming method thing. Mm-hmm. And even though they don't like anybody,
I haven't seen him since.
he's been taken out like Bruce Lee. We're giving away secrets,
Yeah, we blame Roger.
Yeah.
All complaints go to Roger Latewood at ilovegrowingmarijuana.
If you have any problems with the president, just send them to Roger.
Yeah. I'll deal with you guys. No problem.
Let's figure It's about time me and Marty got Roger.
Well, I mean, I figure it's fun. I mean, you guys have been doing your little joke about that's funny, and Marty didn't get you tonight. I got Marty first.
No, the episode's not over yet. I'm sure he's waiting.
Yeah, but see, Marty still hadn't got you though.
I will do a shameless plug real quick. Marty and I will be doing another online class September 23rd and 24th. So if anyone's interested in taking that with Marty and I, that'll be available.
I'd love to come.
I put that video up of Ken, if you want to plug that.
Oh yeah. Oh, he
The
did
tour?
a really yeah.
The tour of the veggie farm. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you just tell him?
Sure. I was fortunate enough to be up at the class up in Half Moon, and we went around. I had my camera on a gimbal, and I took a tour of Ken, who's a partner who works very closely with Steve. And the guy doesn't talk much, but we pointed the camera at him, and he was going to talk about the greenhouse. Holy shit, talk about batteries included, man. This guy goes off. And it's just, so it's like a half hour, 40 minutes, something like that. I don't know what it is.
It goes exactly
It's
an hour.
Old Fart Grows. And it's the last video I put up. It talks about touring a captured river and the theory behind it. And man, he just lays it out in spades. It was so tight. So Old Fart Grows. Just check the last video and enjoy it. I just, put it up there to share with my folks, my excitement of seeing this new facility. So you guys are welcome to groove on it too.
Awesome.
I'll have to go check that out. I love stuff like that.
Very cool. So yeah, and if anyone's interested in the online class, you can check the link. It's in the description. Or there's a video Marty and I both have up on our channels as well that links to it. So we had a little description and stuff. So, alrighty. Trying to think what else we have this week. So there's a couple of bigger news stories. Does anyone want to go over or bring any up? Oh, you know what? There was one other thing I wanted to go over. So somebody asked what to do if there's a hurricane. You got Hurricane Harvey barreling in on everyone in Texas. What kind of stuff would you do? I would try to remove and temporarily transplant all the plants you can inside of some secure place. Even if you just pull the media out and stick them in a Rubbermaid tub with some air stones, battery-powered air stones. Maybe go to the bait shop and buy a couple of the different battery-packed air pumps. Walmart carries them as well. Get some D batteries, tons of D batteries. You're going to be out of power for a couple of weeks, probably at least 2 weeks. I would prepare for. So, and bring your fish in. Try to bring the system. At least catch the fish and bring the fish in if you can. If it's outside, if not, try to hunker them down as best as they can. If it's a big enough system, it's not going to fly away. But you need to make sure you maybe put some some wood over top of the media. Otherwise, that media is just going to sail across your lawn. But screwing some plywood down around the top of your grow beds definitely be something I would do.
It's probably another advantage if you have a dual root zone system like this too, where you can pull out what I would probably do is, because there's definitely roots that come out into the grow bed, but what you would be able to do is pull up the system and keep a large amount of the main root ball intact, and then I would probably place that into another larger pot with soil into it, so it'd be like a pot inside of a potception, if you will, so that you'd be able to transplant them easier, and otherwise, if you just had plants right in your media beds, you'd probably do quite a bit of damage to your root ball trying to transplant a plant that large.
It'd be like a turbacan ducking, but with a pot plant. But yeah, it makes sense.
Sounds good. Sounds tasty.
Yeah, but I would just try to anchor everything down. That's awesome.
Oh, I see now. Okay, thank. Good, better picture, because I was just fixing to ask you something, but you just answered it. Never mind. Okay.
That's what I've been
We
training.
have a pretty cool guest in chat. Pretty funny.
Bringing her down.
Well, how many people have we gotten tonight? How many people have been in chat tonight there, Steve? Are we
We had a whole bunch of
hitting our
we've been
quota?
averaging around 8 or 10 people in the whole stream, so slowly but steadily raising. I think once we get a couple of these other guests we're gonna get on the show, it's gonna change pretty quickly.
Oh, when we advertise the Ed Rosenthal thing on our forum, man, I guarantee you we're gonna have some people.
Yeah, we got that. We got Endocana coming on. We got Bubble Man. Marcus Bubble Man is coming on the show. We got a couple of other guests. I actually got we got in touch with the professor that's actually running that whole department that we had the guy on from KSU. He's gonna, I think, come on the show. So we'll get to talk to them a little bit more about some of their other stuff that they're working on, and some of their other projects before him. And yeah, we got a bunch of cool guests lined up. They got the guy from Hortilux. He's gonna come on the show. So we got a bunch of cool people coming on. And then one of these episodes, I'll finally get a chance to talk about this big project I've been working on. Why I've been zipping around all over the place.
Well, you'll have to leave that no new guest now. It'd be just a panel night with you showing it so we can.
Oh no.
I'm
going to bring some guests that are involved in the project, and you guys are
yeah.
Damn.
Oh yeah, well cool. I mean, well yeah, okay, yeah.
So it'll be fun. Sometime soon. I think it'll be early September now, when I'll be able to talk freely on that. I don't know. You have to double check. But what else is any other questions we have from chat? We have a bunch of people in chat. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. What light is that, Marty?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask too. Marty, why don't you tell us what all the lights you're using in there?
And why doesn't he have his glasses on?
Because he looked directly at the solar eclipse.
He can't. He's like me. He's blind as a son of a bitch from looking. I'm blind from having a greenhouse, and I had to replace the I know when I got my retinal myopathy, I was up there one day. I had to replace the plastic in the middle of winter, and if I didn't, all my plants were going to die. And it was like sun was going down, beaming right off the top of that poly, and for an hour or so, I had to look right across it, putting that lock wire in there, and then I got a scar in my eye. That's where it all started, right there, having to look across that poly into the sun for an hour and a half. So don't, you guys out there, I'm legally blind. I got macular degeneration in both eyes and a retinal myopathy, and I had it by the time I was 55. And my retinal surgeon, he said, "How in the hell are your eyes so messed up? This is an affliction at the rate of your damage that doesn't occur till people are in their 70s. So don't grow with Hortilux lights and other high pressure sodium lights.
Whenever you use grow lights, you need to have your safety glasses.
Always. Thank you guys for bringing it up. You will get and spend $50, $80 and buy a damn good pair too. Because I'm gonna tell you what, if you're like me and you're 60 years old and I'm a musician and now I can't even get in a band anymore hardly because I live in the swamp and nobody drives out here to pick the old man up to go play guitar. I can't drive. I'm stuck on my farm, and that's not a bad thing. I got a beautiful farm and a commercial hydroponic greenhouse, and I'm fixing to have a bunch of fishies. And but don't fucking get blind because you're stupid or ignorant because you don't wear your safety glasses. And nobody can tell you that more than me.
Yep.
Can't see the pretty girls if you can't see.
Right.
I can barely see them too. I mean, I see the shape, but that thing that really used to get you, yeah, you can't see that certain little, that little indentation in the small of their back or whatever, You can't see that shit. I can still find my way into a hole in the dark, though.
Why was the blind girls, or not blind girls, why was the blonde girls have bruises around her belly button? Because the blonde guy's not too smart either. Super old, like elementary school joke.
You can all you feminists can send all your complaints to Ponics at Gmail.
Oh yeah.
Attention, Steve.
Well, we don't judge. It could be like, you know, they might not whatever they identify as, you know, could have bruises around their belly button.
Yeah, and if you don't have a complaint, email any one of us. You know, yeah.
Yeah. But there was something else I was going to bring up. We were going to bring up, and I wanted to go over that hurricane thing real quick. Oh, the news. Is there any news articles you guys wanted to touch on? Since we'll get back to last week in cannabis next week. I just was traveling entirely too much this past couple of Tuesdays. So
I thought it'd be a great idea that because we missed the show, if you had some news stories, I thought we should add some news tonight. You know, just to get, you know, like the hottest things or the most, you know, controversial or funniest.
yeah, did you guys have anything in particular?
Oh, we thought you had something in particular. The only thing I had that I really stuck out was the one we already discussed about the
Cory Booker bill,
the Oregon thing, where the governor, you know, gave a big shout out to.
Did we talk about that on the show? I think that was before the show.
That was, that was before the show. So Marty's tending to his plants. I don't know if he can hear us or not, but he's in Oregon, and well, that's my story. I thought it was great because when we slamming Jeff Sessions, you know, we have the no shit Sessions shithead section on the no shit Jeff Sessions section. Shithead section on the last week in cannabis every week.
I think we change it every week, and it always involves shithead and Sessions and some other amalgamation of curse words.
Yeah, well, you know, we got it every once in a while. If we listen to the show, we could finally actually figure out what we didn't come up with a killer name. It was actually Brain Growth started the name, and we evolved it into. We all said, "Yeah, that's cool." But it's the no shit session.
Shithead Sessions.
Shithead section or something like that. So okay, so we'll have to look at the show. But Oregon's governor just slammed him because, you know, what he's doing. I mean, they've got their problems in Oregon, as Marty's been telling us on the show. It's really sad how they got municipalities and stuff can vote people in and out and enact laws that go against what the state's already, like Marty has a beautiful aquaponic system out back. Well, in past years, Marty grew meds out there for people that can't grow. And they got to people that needed those meds. And now he can't use that bed anymore because in where he lives, it's been deemed out. It's against the law. Now that's not what this news story is about, but that's what's just kind of weird. Because what we did talk about before the show is how some of the weirdness that's going on in Oregon, but yet when it came down to trying to step on Oregon's toes, Oregon's governor slammed Jeff Sessions. And again, Marty's not catching this, so he knows more about it than I do. I did not read the whole article. Steve, did you catch it, or have you looked it up since I?
For which one?
The Oregon governor.
Oh no.
Oh, okay. You know, sometimes guys on the panel say how we back each other up. Somebody's talking about something. Somebody looks it up.
No,
on
her name is Kate Brown. If you're trying to look it up.
I was looking for a particular article I wanted to bring up, actually.
That's what we do on a news show. We kind of like all Google something at the same time if we're not sure because we hadn't caught the story. And you know.
No, there's a particular legal case I want to bring up real quick.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to bring up that in Michigan they're trying to legalize cannabis, and then they're now now they want to want them to close all the medical dispensaries in order to apply for a recreational.
That's crap.
And it's fucking bullshit.
And that's what's really, and you know what? It screws up the end user, the old medical patient that needs the drugs to get off of pharmaceuticals or whatever, just to go out and play in the yard with the grandchildren. That's who's screwing over, you know. And
so There's also a pretty interesting case in Indiana that just went through. That's going to dramatically change police seizures in Indiana, which is awesome. They seized this dude's truck after they found, I think it was $30,000 in cash in 2 parcels. The drug sniffing dog did not find any drugs. And they still seized his truck and a bunch of other belongings, and the judge thought that was fucking bullshit because they couldn't prove where the money came from. So
yeah, just assuming that it came from drugs.
yeah, and just because a drug sniffing dog says that it has drugs residue on it does not at all mean that that's the how the proceeds were generated.
That's right. That drug dealer could have been at the Winn-Dixie buying groceries, handed that money over.
Well, not only that, like, you can make a police dog hit on a fucking hand signal. That's how these cops do it all the time.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
how they get their illegal searches.
I worked with somebody.
Go ahead.
Talking on the seizing stuff and testing out weird. I worked with somebody who had to stay away from cannabis and they were being tested all the time. And she never smoked the cannabis. However, she was continuing in the business, and she actually wound up testing positive for cocaine, which she doesn't do, from counting the money.
Oh,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
There's another story I wanted to bring up. So, video of Texas cop shows cop removing woman's pants for weed search. So you got a cop using marijuana as justification to commit sexual assault.
Time to eat.
Doesn't
Sorry
get
to break it
more
up,
offensive than
guys.
that. So.
That's pretty obnoxious there now. I mean, I thought there was a male cop.
Yep.
I'd have told him to go fuck himself.
Oh yeah, I mean this cop's pretty screwed. But again, going back to the reason why they need to require body cameras on all officers whenever they're on duty. The moment you're on shift, that camera needs to be on. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if it's disabled and something happens, they need to face an automatic 10-year felony conviction. None of this. Oh wait, it didn't work. Shit. That's how that Australian lady ended up getting shot.
And the body cam footage shouldn't wind up on a porn site either.
Yeah. What?
Body cam footage, like from that girl who got assaulted by that cop.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That one really got under my skin.
Yeah, that one was pretty bad. And Denver is now allowing business applications for social marijuana use, which is really good. So they're going to allow for smoking lounges and that kind of thing. So they have to be 1,000 feet from a school. They can't serve alcohol. They can't be near a drug treatment center or alcohol treatment center or a child care facility. So it's kind of ridiculous.
South Carolina, they say you can't do nothing within 1,000 feet of a church. You wouldn't be able to do nothing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I also heard in California that they're still arresting a lot of people of color for cannabis.
Oh yeah.
That's just, this shit's got to
everywhere.
end.
Oh yeah,
Everywhere.
no.
I mean, black
It's
and white
insane.
smoke at roughly the same rates, but the amount of people of color who get arrested and put in jail is just absurd in comparison.
Yep.
That is true. That is true. And you know, at the time of you finding out that you collar somebody and they got some pot and taking them to jail just needs to stop. Especially, you just said California, right? There's still more black. These blacks are still getting black. I hate to even use that word because everybody hates the color words, but we're talking about a very hot topic here. It's about time. Oh, hold on. Let me put my face on here while I'm talking. It's about time we stop this crap. And if it's still going on with cannabis, all right, if they got coke or heroin, all right, well, we're all going to go deep shit for that, But it's stopping somebody that has pot and putting them in jail, and especially if you could cite now that there's still statistics showing that one group or another is getting still jailed more than other for possession of marijuana. That's absurd in 2017.
Yep. Some of the other rules that you're going to see in California, California is, I think you're going to see most townships requiring light deprivation greenhouses. They don't want the light pollution, which seems to be a big issue for a lot of townships. California also makes you identify your water source. So you have to know where your water source is coming from. You know, that's only going to make the next drought that much more of a fight, you know, because then they can identify, oh, well, there's this many growers, and, you know, it's going to make it a lot easier to attack individual people on that. So the aquaponic growers are going to be able to kind of and ignore a lot of that hassle later on.
Well, that's true, because you end up overall, you don't use as much water in the long run as you would with either field irrigation or with hydroponics, do you?
Yep. Yeah, we use 5 to 10% of the water depending on the grow. So
there's a concept right there for all of us that are prepping for the days the lights go out. You know. And if you're not, you're crazy. You better learn how to grow food. You know, get a big fence. Yeah, that's awesome though. I just put that together. That with what you're saying about Colorado and California are crazy about that shit. If you don't have 40 acres in Colorado, you can't have water running to your garage. You can only have a spigot outside your house, water to your house.
Huh?
Build a garage or an outbuilding, you cannot, unless you have 40 acres, you cannot consume water in a second building.
40 acres are plumbing skills.
No, because the well, you can do plumbing skills, but if they catch you, you're fucked, man. It's like,
if you have your own well, you can do whatever you want, as long as you're not pulling too much.
It's still, the law says, well, everybody basically has their own well, or you don't have water.
Oh, I know. I used to grow a lot in Colorado.
I mean, because I did a lot of research on. I was going to move out there, and I was going to buy land up in the mountains, and I was going to buy a 40-acre lot. And the reason I was going to buy that 40-acre lot, it was going to be some of the wells in that area were 4,000 feet deep, and otherwise you went down to town and had to load up your, fill your water buffalo and stuff like that. And
so the valley, what you call a valley out there by out by Crestone?
I know. I can't think where it was. All I know is that the pictures they stood on the land and they took pictures all around. And basically, it was majestic mountaintops and stuff. And it was still, you had a pretty nice summer. It was in the southern. See, my uncle.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah, in the southern middle, In fact, the one thing that. Well, no, I'd have to do some research. I'll look it up, Steve, and we'll talk about it later. But the thing is it didn't matter where in Colorado. But
I have friends that just bought land.
It was a nice 40-acre. I mean, I was just like, I just said I could just get up. I would want to get up every morning just to look at the sky and look at those mountains, and we could be on our own and everything. But it didn't happen. And again, that goes back to a lot of personal, local reasons. I have 80-year-old parents. So I'm going to stay close to them. So, but yeah,
there's a really cool hot springs out there called Valley View. Valley View hot springs are awesome, by the way, in that valley. I can't remember the name of the valley, but anyways.
Oh, hey, but have you ever been to Paladuro Canyon? Out there?
No.
We went to Paladuro Canyon. We went to Red Rock. We went to a bunch. I stood on one of those rocks you see in the Roadrunner cartoon. There's like this point, and there's like this big flat rock on top of it.
Do they have like a tunnel painted on one side?
Well, no, I mean, Steve, I was like 10. This is like 50 years ago, dude. So you probably didn't see this. You probably didn't see this. But I mean, I stood on one of those rocks, and it was pretty cool. That was really cool. We went to We went to Pikes Peak and all that out there. I mean, it's Colorado. Oh my God.
I used to live on the side of Pikes Peak at 9,000 feet up in Chipeta Park.
Oh, I love. We went to North Pole. Went to North Pole when I was a kid. So we were down the road, huh?
Yeah.
You won't tell them, Tommy.
The other thing I was going to bring up, Hawaii opened their first medical dispensary and sold out within the first, I think it was like first couple of hours.
Nice.
And are they limited by how many people that can grow for them, or what's the deal?
They've had this wonky. Their regulatory system's been all screwed up, and they haven't been able to grow yet. So, I mean, they only had that one harvest worth.
That lasted an hour.
Yeah, they just plowed through.
So
yeah,
basically,
Hawaii's first medical dispensary sells out in days. This is on the Cannabis. So.
Yet they won't let more growers and bigger farms. Only so many farms. And
well, Hawaii's got some legitimate concerns. I think it's not a very big place.
Well, don't you think they still need more?
They had issues with the certification for certifying it.
Okay.
So the first batch of certified stuff is all gone.
Oh, so it's all a matter of they are actually trying to certify the weed correctly, so it's healthy.
Yep.
For medical use. Okay, that's another big thing for everybody out there that doesn't realize it. Just because you got a place that's legal marijuana doesn't mean
they're closed. They're closed Mondays and Tuesdays, and then they're by appointment only on Wednesdays.
Wow.
My appointment for the Cannabis dispensary. I don't want to be late. It's very important.
Hey, well, you know what? That's what we figured out how to do the communication when teaching online. We figured out you had to do it by appointment.
Yeah, that's one fucking doctor I wouldn't be late for.
Yeah, there's definitely a doctor's appointment you would not miss.
Yeah. Turn your head and cough from smoking a big rip, right?
Right? See, that would make that whole process way less stressful. If the doctor, there's just a giant bong, like a 6-foot bong. All right, we're gonna need you to cough. Rip the bong.
There we go. And you haven't ripped the bong in a while, so that's a pretty good one. So,
cool.
Do we have any really obnoxious news stories that came up this week?
No, just that one about the cop in Texas.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah, I don't even want to. It's kind of like the guy that runs across the football game, in streaks. They don't show them on TV. It's almost like, yeah, we need to bring that up and then move on. We don't need to give too much attention to idiots like that.
Mm-hmm. So, does anyone else have anything else they wanted to bring up?
I can't think of anything here on my end.
No, we touched a lot of basic aquaponics tonight. That was really great for everybody, and I'm pretty much satisfied. The only thing I haven't touched on is, again, the fish. Or can we discuss some fish real quick? Since I had that, I might. What time is it, Steve? Because you sound like you were out now.
It's like 8:40. We still got 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, we were talking about fish before we went on goldfish. Well, I was looking at today. Just for instance, what I'm going to have available to me in the long run, or like if I wasn't going to kill because they are more expensive, but I got rainbow trout. Isn't that a really good fish if you could use it for aquaponics? And
you'd have to do a decoupled system because they're too cold. They'll need to really cold water, and about the only way to do that is decoupled. And it doesn't really make any sense to do that in a cannabis grow at all because you can raise fish that generate just as much, if not more, revenue.
Right, and even in a vegetable situation, the same thing applies.
Yep.
Okay, so the fact that they're available to stock my pond or to put in the lake, they're not good for aquaponics.
No, because they don't do well much above about 58 degrees. Realistically, you can get them up as high as 60, but
they'd be great up
north. High.
They'd be great up north then.
Well, no, because you don't want to grow your cannabis plants in that. It's too cold. You're gonna have nutrient issues.
Again, water's too cold. Okay, so that's one of those fish like that. Okay, I had catfish. Yeah, I know you like
Catfish are good. Perch are good. Pacu, bluegill.
We got bluegill.
Boy.
We got brim. Brim and perch are basically the same. Don't you agree?
Yep.
Okay. So I got brim available. I got catfish available, and get them at very good prices. The goldfish were was it the gold? I don't know if they had goldfish. There was one they had. I looked for goldfish, but I was actually looking at a farm, and I'm not sure they was good. But I think the goldfish were like $10 a pound, and you got 100 goldfish in a pound. But you guys said I don't need that many fish.
Just depends on the size of your tank.
Marty likes the price. I think that was a thumbs up. I think, but well, I got a 500-gallon tank. You said I need 200.
Start off with 150 or 200 fish.
Okay, because you said that today. So all I do is not. So say I run 300 gallons. Maybe I could just get 100 for 300 gallons.
Yeah.
And then that would allow me to. And how? So that could allow me what?
You'll have to thin them out a little bit, and you'll probably lose a couple on the way. I mean, we're assuming you're going to kill some.
Right. We always have to assume you're going to kill them all, right? Yeah.
Fish murderer.
Well, but I'm going to try to prove you wrong. I'm telling you, I'm going to try to prove you wrong that I'm not going to kill my damn.
What was it? Fish schwitz?
Fish wits. So.
Fish wits.
I forget. There was a meme on one of the Aquaponics groups the other day. Some guy was like really bashing Aquaponics, saying that like we're awful people for keeping them in these confined spaces and comparing them to concentration camps for fish, which I thought was really ridiculous.
Yeah, like fish don't live in confined spaces to begin with.
Hey,
once in a while you get these aquarium people that try to follow the aquarium stocking rules for like a 5 or 10 gallon aquarium and then compare that to an aquaponic system where you have thousands and thousands of gallons and can space it out and the fish are doing just fine. And yeah, anyways, so these people sometimes get a little ridiculous with the name calling.
The difference between us and the concentration camps is we feed the fish.
No, we're not talking anything more on this. This guy is ridiculous.
And none of the fish are Jewish.
Roger.
None of the fish are Jewish, so it's all right.
Did you ask their mom?
Concentration.
To find out if the fish's mom was Jewish?
I said, well, we at least feed the fish.
You guys are
If they were
bad.
Jewish,
You're gonna get us in trouble now.
Farm? If they were Jewish, would you
I
have
guess,
to get
yeah, well,
your
it could be
food
a
prayed
kosher
over? Would
or
it
a
already be
halal.
kosher?
What if it's a halal fish farm?
All the fish with the little turbans.
You guys are bad. We love all peoples. There's no prejudice here, just for the record. It's disgusting to see what's happening with this country and the current government and the hate that he's preaching. So fuck all of that. It's fun to mock all of those racist people and stuff like that, but don't at all think that any of us are
deserve it.
All think that way. In fact, some of us here actively love to mock those people at protests.
Exactly. If you don't mock them, then whatever is
how are they going to know
them
they're
from
silly
doing
if
what
you
they
don't
know is
mock
wrong.
them? Right.
How are they going to know they're not silly? I think I'm going to buy a new t-shirt.
Some of us have been arrested at protests for pointing that out.
How else are they going to know they're not silly? I'm going to make a t-shirt. Yeah. Like last week, y'all got me 4 new websites, and tonight Steve got me a new t-shirt.
Oh, so going back to the fish question, though, koi are really the best starter fish. If you're doing a larger aquaponic cannabis system, they're going to gain the most dollar value, especially if you're doing some of the nicer koi or some of the fancier goldfish or butterfly koi especially. You have a pretty good flip return rate. You can find a couple of local landscapers or koi breeders or other people that koi clubs, aquarium clubs that'll happily take your higher end, larger, nicer butterfly koi. You can get if you're feeding your butterfly koi 1 to 3 times a day, depending on veg or flour or the size of the fish, those things are going to grow ridiculously fast, and you're going to get a lot more money per inch gained with the koi. Not to mention, most states you're looking at like less than $1,000 for an aquaculture license or a pet trade license. So it's much cheaper than a food processing license or anything like that would require you to have a or meat processing license. It's just even crazier.
Yeah, so that's an important thing, that you have to have that license to resell the koi. It's a lot cheaper than like making it a food source. You sell it to a pet store or whatever. So that's a great point. I think Hogmaster was jumping in there for something.
Yeah, I've had several koi, and I'm at a place where the temperature does get down below 0 for weeks at a time. And like Steve was saying, as long as you have a hole in the ice and a pump in there running, they'll survive the winter.
Yeah, I saw that myself when we moved out here. There were koi, and we had them for years, and they finally died. Which I don't know why. They seem to live forever, and they lived through. We had ice one year, and it was under an inch of ice. Now I didn't pop a hole in it because I didn't know that, but they still lived. They lived through it, because
I had more trouble with the coon than I did the ice. The coons will eat them suckers up, even though it's 6 foot deep. They're still jumping in there getting them.
Well, Steve, if you went with koi instead of goldfish, how many koi would you need for a 200-gallon tank or 100-gallon or something
Probably
like that?
Start off with maybe 35 or 40. Obviously, you're going to thin them out, but.
Okay, so 60 or 70, 1 per 3 gallons?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Like 1/3, 1 to 3 ratio per gallon. Okay. I mean, that's the way I get it, so okay. And again, you're going to lose some, so if you go 4 per gallon, you're probably, koi, but koi is going to be how much more expensive to buy a koi fingerling or something, like, if you can find them.
Yeah.
They're a little more expensive, but they're not a whole hell of a lot.
Depends how many you're buying. I mean, you can get fingerlings when you're buying a bunch of them for, between $1 and $3. Maybe 4 to 6 if you're buying them in smaller batches.
Per pound?
Okay, because like the catfish, you got $50. It was $50 for 100, and the rainbow trout were $90 for 100 for fingerlings. And I found a really cool site right down the road in South Carolina. I mean, which is right in my area, like an hour away. So I found a place I can actually go to the farm and buy fish. And they had I'm pretty sure they had goldfish, but I don't know if they had a koi. I didn't see koi, and I'm not sure if they're high-dollar goldfish, or what they're raising them for or whatever. But I was real excited to see, which I already knew. I told you before. I got access to shitloads of fish, and I would like to grow them. Well, I'd like to grow some to eat too, And I don't see eating koi, but I can see the resale. Like you brought that up before. That's a big thing. Somebody like I have a little bit bigger area where I can, actually have a bigger tank. And you're right. That is, and you could sell. What is a big ass koi sell for that you'd get rid of?
Well, I mean, you can sell them for $40 to $80, sometimes even more than that, depending on the variety and the color.
The genetics, yeah. And the color.
Yeah, you can get them pretty
Steve,
crazy looking.
So, Steve, are there things you can do, particularly talking koi? You've mentioned it several times for somebody to start. Are there specific things they would want to do along their growing methodologies to make sure that the fish are also marketable, or is it more important to focus on your main crop of cannabis and whatever the fish look like, that's what they look like?
You can boost some of the stuff with fish. If you give them pineapple, cut pineapple, you can give them, red lettuce. I'm trying to think. Plums are another good one that help with color.
I was going to say that. So their diet can
spirulina and then the other thing that can give them is a brine shrimp. Brine shrimp help a lot with color if you're trying to really boost the color on them.
And it won't affect the plant, so you can grow for your vegetable production or your cannabis production and take into account the downstream income from the fish too. Then you can mix those two.
Yeah, you can absolutely, and even beyond brine shrimp, feeding them some frozen shrimp and stuff like that occasionally will help make sure that their color is kept up.
Doesn't that also give you some invertebrate type waste that's very usable on the back end?
No, you're thinking more like
No?
stuff that's generated by an invertebrate.
Okay, only if it was just shrimp. So if it's eaten by the fish, if shrimp's eaten by the fish, you don't get any benefit out of that at all.
Not that much.
Kill waste. Okay, all right. I don't know.
Yeah,
Very good.
but it will help with color.
That's neat.
That's
So
a
you
good point. We've never talked about that.
Yeah, so that's really a good reason, because if koi's going to be, so you think what pineapple? Can we assume that plum makes them more purple and pineapple makes them more yellow?
It's just about they're high in sugars and it helps a lot, and some other lots of vitamins in them as well. Broccoli and kale and those are also other good ones. A lot of broccoli and some of the collard greens and stuff. You end up, or the kales usually have a couple extra bigger leaves or leaves at the bottom. Maybe you prune off. They're great to feed back to the fish. Super high in vitamins. They love to munch on them.
Yeah,
I
that's real
actually
good.
had plum trees with my koi pond, and never even dawned on me.
There you go.
That's crazy.
You can ferment the plums too, like Marty does. Those seem to have
absolutely.
Marty. I guess you got child aggro.
I think Greengrow says he does that too. He ferments that stuff before he feeds it to a fish, I think.
Yep.
And that breaks down a lot and allows them to process everything better. Isn't that why? Do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I see Dorian over there going, yeah. Yeah, cool. See, it's not that hard to understand,
I think we'll wrap everything up unless anybody else has any other questions. Does anybody in chat have any questions? Give everybody in chat a minute or two. Do you guys want to tell people how to find you while we're waiting on chat to see if there's any other questions left? And we'll start off with Roger.
Well, you can find me anytime. Just sign up at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, and I'm the administrator there, and I run the moderation team, and they're all a bunch of great guys that share all with vast knowledge of different ways to grow, and we got a really great forum there. Come there and very friendly. We don't tolerate any bullshit. Nobody, you can come there and ask questions without being made to seem stupid or get cussed out by any smart ass. If you do, we cut that to the quick. So that's about all I got to say. We got a bunch of projects in the works, and we'll move on. We'll get to that when we get to it, just like we all do when our project comes to fruition and we can talk about it. See you there. And thank you very much for enjoying the show. Love it.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you want to tell people how to find you guys?
Sure. We're at Old Fart Grows. It's just our play channel. We started it literally just to keep track of what we were doing, and some people started following us for some reason or the other. And it's just a little small channel. We haven't been doing grow stuff lately. We'll be maybe changing it to some more extraction kind of technology lessons, safety lessons around the extraction stuff, where we got pretty much a hard on for getting rid of the pumps in the closed loop systems and stuff, and eliminating the dangers. And we don't grow as well as other people, but we know some of the other stuff, so we're looking forward to sharing some of that info with folks.
Dispelling some of the ridiculous claims that you hear around the internet, because everybody claims they have this, everybody claims they have that, but having some of the papers to look at, or some of the results to look at, or some of the things that we want to start posting on, so we can show, there's this way to do it, and then there's, a less efficient way to do it. There's none of this, everybody's got their own way, and it all turns out the same in the end, because that's just not how things work in reality.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting to see as that develops and as we're able to talk about it more.
Well, you guys are doing trying to promote a safer way to produce.
Not only safer, but more efficient.
Right,
more,
but in the long
more
run,
scientifically minded, less just whatever.
Yeah, less
more
shotgun.
research, more we can actually show our work kind of stuff.
more
Trying to
method
bring it
behind it. Yeah.
trying to bring it closer to other areas of industry where there are regulations and things that are there to make sure certain quality is produced for the end consumer. And here in this industry, it really seems like the quality produced to the end consumer is still very hit and miss.
I'll agree
So
with
what do y'all
that.
think about that world? Yeah, that's quality control and just getting the benchmarks. I think you were looking for that, maybe.
Yep. Well, that and just the amount of pesticides that's still put through for sale is insane.
Yeah, you got to see by creating benchmarks, we know where we're at, and then what
And
we
then
do.
if people knew how much pesticides was in their concentrates, I think people's heads would explode. Like, people really don't understand the amount of pesticides that are in, not all, but in a large percentage of the United States current concentrates, with the exception of maybe Oregon and Colorado right now because of the regulatory structure. So,
And you're
and even
saying
then,
that's coming from the flower, right? You're saying it's coming from the flower unregulated because
well,
of
no, what it is there's no pesticide regulations or proper pesticide regulations in most other states right now.
Right.
My grow store was selling me Eagle 20 to use on my plants.
Woo! That's a bad thing, everybody.
Right.
Super bad.
And they're telling me, oh, this is what you use.
Yep. It's ridiculous. So, alrighty, about you, Hogmaster.
You can find me over at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com. A mentor moderator over there, and I'm willing to help out anybody who's willing to come over that needs any help. I mean, we'll answer anything. There is no such thing as a dumb question.
You haven't heard my questions yet.
Well, bring them on, brother. We'll be nice about it. That's the nice thing.
Awesome. Marty's channel is AP Meds on YouTube. He also has AP Meds on Patreon if you want a little bit more in-depth stuff. I think it's like $3 a month. It's pretty cool. So if you're interested in supporting him, definitely go check that out. And yeah, my channel is Ponics. You can check me out there. Our website is potentponics.com. What else? Oh, I did buy growingwithfishes.com the other day and connected that. So if you go to growingwithfishes.com, it takes you to my website. I made a whole separate division for the podcasts. So there's a little blog post about each one. So if for some reason you can't remember what the thing is, if you remember the podcast name, you can just type that in .com and it will take you there. And same thing with last week in Cannabis. We'll get back on that pony next week. Again, there's just a lot of travel, and I kind of needed a short break from doing 2 shows a week. Well, it was just too much at once. That and working at 80 bajillion hours a day on this new project. So,
and you can also, I was going to say, you can also find all the podcast over at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com as well on the forum.
Yep.
And I'd like to say, we talked about it, but can we announce and agree tonight that possibly Marty is there? Are we going to move last week to Tuesday night?
Yeah, no, that already happened.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't do an episode yet, but we're moving it to Tuesdays because Mondays just get balltastically too hard to.
Right, it's just Monday's the first day we catch up because the rest of the world doesn't work Saturday and Sunday like we do, because we work 7 days a week. But, Monday you got to catch up with business as they finally wake up on Monday morning. And so you're doing all that. And at least I do all my phone calls. And, it's a lot easier to move it. I also wanted to suggest, now I don't know, I wanted to talk with you and Marty about this, but I'll bring it up for everybody to chew on. I would like to do, like, if we went to the studio all together and did a show, it'd be like bam, bam, back to back, be done. Next week we do another show. I'd love to see if we could move both shows back to back Tuesday and Wednesday and be done, and then have 5 days to have, end of the week.
I mean, this show's been Thursday now for a long time.
Right.
I gotta move that.
You could do a big thing and make it so it's 2 nights in a row, and we would have our the rest of the end of the week, like, because it's Thursday when you're traveling or we're traveling, we're going somewhere for Friday. Like if I was playing, I might have to leave Thursday to go play somewhere. If I was doing, you know what I'm saying, we're going to the weekend. But I mean, I know it's always been Thursday, and I know if you absolutely do not want that, I'll shut up right now. But I thought it'd be nice if we could just do the shows back to back on Tuesday and Wednesday, which frees up the beginning and the end of the week for everybody, and we could rock the shows too. You know, be ready for it. Just a thought. I know the show's Thursday.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we're not going to move the show off
Okay.
of Thursdays.
All right.
So
Thank you. All right.
we have our installed listener base now on Thursdays, and the last time we tried to do anything like that, it was a disaster, and we lost a lot of people, and took a while to build up the people back. So I don't want to do that again.
Oh, well, then, see, that's perfectly good reasoning. I thought that the show had the strength to do it anyway, but I yield totally because it's your show. And I just wanted to bring that up.
Alrighty. Anyways, we're getting into boring territory for the viewers, so we're going to wrap things up. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back again next week. I will have, I'm not sure who the guest is going to be next week. There's a possibility. Yeah, anyways, I don't even say it because I don't want to jinx it, but we'll see who gets on next week. And
guest?
Yeah, either we'll get Alan back from this week since he wasn't able to join us last minute and had some technical issues that we couldn't sort out beforehand, or we'll end up. I got one other person in queue right away. So, but yeah, and we listed off some other cool guests we'll have soon. So, anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Take care. I will see you guys next week. Peace.
Night, everyone.